Hi there, I am Stacy Phillips, and I am so excited to kick off season 1 of my podcast, Stacy Phillips and Friends, or as we like to say, keeping it real with non-housewives. No slight to real housewives. We really love you. Everybody needs a housewife in their life. Each week, we will step into my wardrobe, literally one of my closets, where one of my nearest and dearest friends and confidants will fill this chair next to me as my co-host to chat a little bit about life and a lot about women empowering women. Together, we will have a gap session with just us gal pals, a deep dive for the dish, a convo among co-eds, and then our big feature presentation, the special guest interview, or what I call the SGI. But first, move over, Andy Cohen, with your mazel of the day, because at Stacy Phillips and Friends, we will bump it up a notch or 3 as we kibitz, Kveltch, and Kvell, the best 5 minutes of commenting, complaining, and crowing. And because I am a divorce attorney, my producer, George, will drop in to spend a few minutes of each show talking about a high-profile relationship in the news. So welcome to Stacy Phillips and Friends. I'm Stacy, and welcome to Stacy Phillips and Friends. With me today is my dear friend and co-host, Tanya Acker. Tanya is a star of TV's Hot Bench and Tribunal Justice, but stay tuned for what I think is the best of all the shows she's been on, and I really love it, and it's Justice on Trial. Not only does Tanya host her own podcast, The Tanya Acker Show, she's the current chair of public counsel, a role that she will hand over to me in the fall. So she's not just a dear friend, she's a role model and a mentor. Say hello, Tanya.
Hello. Hello. Thank you for having me in your closet, Stacy. I'm so, honestly, I've never been one to think of myself as being in a closet, but I'm so happy to be in this closet. I'm so happy about it.
It's so fun and bright and cheery.
I love this closet.
You know, back in the day, a few of my besties and I had the idea that when we wanted to talk about something real, have a real serious conversation, we literally would come to my closet and sit on the floor. It was a thing. Okay, so let's take a little break here. Let's talk about fashion. So, plug for Audrey McLaughlin and Frank and Eileen. Here are my favorite sweats, my favorite pants of hers. And yes, I have another closet, and that has her shirts and her sweaters with a little bit of Valentino, Balmain, and Acris thrown in, and a little LaPointe. My favorite. You gotta dress it up and put on your fun stuff so that, for me, that I can go into court and slay dragons. Okay, so let me explain to you what kibitz, kvetch, and kvel is. Kibitz is really, it's sort of like gossiping. I don't like to gossip, but it's chattering. Kvetch is to complain, and sorry, Jews do that well. And kvelling is busting buttons, as my dad would say. I prefer to kvel. Hey, I have one of my besties sitting next to me. So, Tanya, what's your kibitz of the day? What do you want to talk about?
Well, actually, I have to say, Stace, I'm so excited to be in your closet that I want to talk about that, because you talked about clothes as sort of, a type of dressing or armor when you go to court. But what my mother always said is that you have to show up for the world like you actually care, right? Don't go out in the world and suggest that you don't really give show up like you care. And this is a closet to me of somebody who cares very much. And I'm really excited about being here amongst all of these beautiful things. So thank you. And I'm not Jewish, but I feel like if I said, I'm not complaining, I'm just kvetching, it sounds cuter and sexier. So maybe I'll just say that. I'm kvetching.
And I love your mom, by the way.
Don't you? Everybody does. She's phenomenal. She's phenomenal.
My mom
she would be so proud of this closet. She would be so proud of it.
So this room used to be my mother-in-law's room when she lived with us. And I had a discussion this morning with somebody who knew my mother-in-law. And she said that, Gaga, you would be so proud to have this podcast in your room, which is now a closet and has files. I think it's really cool. What do you want to kvetch about today?
Kvetch, kvetch, kvetch. I just want to say the word.
Sounds so
kvetch,
cute.
Kvetch, kvetch, nothing. I don't want to kvetch about anything. I'm not joking. I'm not blowing smoke. You know me well. I don't have anything to complain about right now. I feel like the sun is shining. I'm in this closet. I'm so happy at this moment. I have nothing to kvetch
So what do you want to kvel about?
What do I want to kvel about? What I think I want to kvel about is, I've really been thinking about what friendship means and how you can have different types of relationships with people. Your friendships change. I feel so lucky because I live and work in a town that I grew up in. I haven't always lived here. And, I've gone to school and worked in different places. But I feel so grateful to be surrounded by my people. Like I have people. And I think that that's probably why right now I don't feel like I have a lot to kvetch about.
Do I hear the sound of crying or is it laughter? Ha ha ha. Better turn the sound up because it's time for our relationship roundup. It's not every day you get a divorce lawyer and a judge, even if a TV judge, in the room together. So Tanya, whose relationship would you like to talk about this week?
Well, since I'm just going to pull this out of my hat, what about, Bennifer?
I remember then they were called that in the beginning.
Oh,
How many is that, 20 years ago?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I feel like, I was being a little sardonic. I mean, I think it must be horrible to actually process whatever is or isn't happening in your relationship through the lens of paparazzi. I really don't know. They're like, oh, he wants a divorce. We really don't know. We have no idea.
I actually know a little bit because of some of the clients I've represented. I remember I was representing a client in court and I was almost knocked down twice by the paparazzi because they were so insistent on getting to my client that literally this like bowled me over. And other times where I represented another client, it was very funny. I knew one of the reporters. He was a friend. So I ran up to him, threw my arms around him and said, okay, so great to see you. Could you please get me into the courtroom without people mobbing me? And he did. So I can only imagine. And I talk to my clients where people climb on their cars. And I do remember one thing that was close to it. I got a call from TMZ at 7:30 one morning. Oh, I understand you represent so-and-so. I said, I do. Well, the person had interviewed me. I didn't know I was being hired, but TMZ knew before I did. So just put that on steroids, and that's too much.
I think it's rude. I actually think that kind of pontificating and saying these things and trying to catch weird shots of somebody looking weird when they're walking out of a restaurant and say, oh, they must be so upset. They just had a fight. We don't know. I think it's really rude. I think it's mean. It's mean and it's rude.
But you also do know that paparazzi also go to places because they get a phone call from the publicist for the celebrity.
These are also facts.
Well, also the owner of the restaurant sometimes has relationships with the paparazzi and they will call and say, I have X so-and-so famous person here, come wait outside because it's good publicity for the restaurant.
These are facts, true facts.
J-Lo leaving whatever X insert restaurant.
And maybe J-Lo then won't go back to that restaurant because J-Lo wants to be left alone.
Maybe.
So the flip side of my point, which is that it's rude, is that sometimes, and I'm not saying this about J-Lo or Ben, don't know them, I don't know their business, but I do know that there are lots of people who make a living in front of the camera.
Like you.
I do, but I'm not famous enough to have paparazzi.
You're famous in my heart.
I'm famous in this closet. To really glad I'm not looking for paparazzi. It's sort of not my bread and butter. It's not. And there's a caliber of famous person for whom that shot in Us Weekly or that blurb, that is important. That keeps them in the mix. That keeps them in the game. So sometimes, it's off-putting. Sometimes they are it's a mutual beneficial society for everybody. It's a
beneficial.
Oh, that's so good. It's a beneficial.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's currency for some of these people. They have to have their names in the press. I mean, I don't know if J-Lo's desperate. I wouldn't say she's desperate for attention, but I say that those constant speculation about her relationship kind of keeps her name in the press. And
isn't she so famous though? Does she need it?
Out of my mouth.
Does she need it?
J-Lo, listen to us. You don't need it.
She doesn't need it. She doesn't need it. I wonder if she's bothered by it. You think she's bothered by it? She always, but I will say I've seen very few pictures of her not looking ready. Like she looks ready. She shows
She's
up.
not trailed in the
She
airport.
goes, she's ready. So
I think that's probably
he doesn't always look as ready as she does. She looks.
I think that's probably part of why they're always having these ups and downs, sort of turbulent relationship.
But that's who they each are, and if they can't embrace who
Didn't
the
he
other
know?
is,
Like, didn't he know her before? Didn't they date before? Like, this is not. This shouldn't be new news.
when they first became
That shouldn't be
Bennifer.
new news.
Yeah.
But it's sad.
It's interesting. And apparently she has a good relationship with his kids from Jennifer Garner, because she was recently photographed having lunch with Violet Affleck, who's his child. So I find that interesting. I mean, it seems...
God bless her.
Yeah, they almost like each other.
You know, going through a divorce, and I do know what I'm talking about.
You do indeed.
Going through a divorce is really hard. And I just wish people who were famous could live that horrible part of their life in private. If they want to do it in public, that's their choice. But my vote would be to leave them alone. It's horrible.
I read a story not long ago about a number of famous people, and I'm going to get the names wrong, so I won't speculate. But there is a trend amongst a certain caliber of celebrity or a certain type of folks where they get divorced and nobody knows about it. Like, I think, what's her name? Katie, Black Swan.
No.
Natalie Portman. Not Katie. That would be Natalie. Katie, Natalie. But and don't quote me if I'm wrong. Don't use this. But I feel like I read somewhere that she and her husband got divorced, and they were divorced for a long time before they're like, oh yeah, we're divorced. Like there are some folks who are just trying to do it quietly and on the down low. Let's go see our mediator. Let's just wrap it up without making big announcements and trying to embarrass each other.
Ben and Jennifer, I hope you do this however you choose to do it. If you want to be left alone, God bless. If you want it in the public, that's your choice. I hope you get to make your choice and it's not foisted upon you. Go with God. And so that's our
Keep looking
SGI.
great, J-Lo. Just keep looking ready. You're always ready. Just stay ready.
Yeah.
It's time for my favorite part of the show, the SGI, our special guest interview. This week, we are very excited to spend time with somebody who you all know, Vicki Gunvalson. Vicki is the OG Real Housewife from the OG Bravo Housewife series, The Real Housewives of Orange County.
So many OGs.
Yes, wow.
Like the OG from the OG series.
That was from a long time ago. Vicki is not just a TV star, but she has her own business, and she's the CEO of a super successful insurance business, Coto Insurance, also in the OC, not the OG. And that's of great interest to me on how you juggle having a business and be on a reality TV show. So tell us how you did it.
So I never stopped working full time. So they would have to film when I was either at night or on the weekends or on a lunch break, which I never usually take anyways. But I never wanted to give up my business because my business it's like a child. It's something that I've had since I was 28. I'm 62 now. So when Bravo approached me to do a reality show, it's like, well, I have to still work and you're going to have to incorporate that into the reality. And they did. They were successful in doing that, but it was still a challenge. I mean, I gave up a lot. I gave up a lot of friendships. I gave up my marriage. I gave up a lot of things because I couldn't juggle it all and something has to give. So hindsight, I don't know if I would have, been that focused in a reality show while I'm building my business and while I'm raising my kids. But that was 19 years ago. And now we're in a new stage of life and I'm still working and I enjoy my clients and enjoy my life. And I'm only filming a little bit now. So it's a better balance for me. But when I was full time for 15 years, it was a challenge because none of the other women worked full time or even had a career. They would bring in, different careers as their reality. But for me, it was something that was the core of who I am, so I was not going to give that up for a reality show.
So it's interesting, Vicki, because I watched the show I'm on a court show now. I'm a lawyer by trade, but I work on a court show. I'm a TV judge on a show that Judge Judy created. And like on our show, the litigants are real. It's all real. It's a binding arbitration. Nobody tells us what to say. And, it's just sort of what we do. It's like we do what we do, but we're doing it on camera. What I always found interesting about your show, and you in particular, one, your work ethic always really stood out. So there would be all of these things going on, right? Like the drama and the fights and the this and the that. And you like going back to your office and going back to the business. And I think that it's just interesting to hear you talk about how hard it was, because from my perspective, I'm almost like, it's like you were living like all of these different realities, like a proper business, not a business that was drummed up for the show, right? Not a business that happened because of the show, but you had this business that you clearly built, your success, and the stuff, right? Like we saw you in the houses and the boats, all of that stuff was traceable back to the business. And yet it always struck me like, was the show a distraction? Was some of the drama that, and I know a little bit about how those shows are made. I don't have any insight on the Housewives, but was it a distraction? Did it distract you from your clients? How did you process doing it when you were really working as hard as you were on both projects?
And your kids.
My kids. I raised really good children. So I think that was my focus, is raising good people. I'm from the Midwest. We raise good people. Coming to California 25 years ago, that kind of distracted me a little bit on my work ethic, but I knew at the core of who I am, the show wasn't going to last forever. And so I needed to go back to work every single day. My clients were building. I've got over 16,000 clients. I've got a whole bunch of work here to do right when we're done. And then I've got a client meeting coming in at 4. So that was still and still is my reality. I've got a responsibility with my children, my family, my clients, and then I had a responsibility with the show. When Scott Dunlap chose me, he said, we need some balance here. All these women that we're choosing don't work. They don't understand, what it's like to be a breadwinner in a family. Most of them or all of them were taken care of by their spouse. And I didn't understand that mentality, because a spouse is going to die, they're going to divorce, something's going to happen eventually, and they better know what they're going to do after that all ends. And even after the show ends, how are they going to make a living? If that's all they're banking their income on is a show, the show is very cyclical. They could last 1 year, they could last 15 years, they can last 2 years. As you know, a lot of these Vanderpump Rule girls, they've been on 8, 9, 10 years and they've never had a real job. When that show ends, and it will one day, what are they going to do? So I always worry about all these people that focus their income on reality TV, because it's not sustainable,
You were one of the early ones, and they first asked you to be on the show. Obviously, you used your brain to protect yourself financially. But could you envision what became your reality, having cameras follow you all over the place and presumably stirring on and stirring the pot?
That was tough for me, because I'm a reality person in real life. Like, I don't lie, cheat, or steal. So when they wanted somebody to come in and lie about me, I would go ballistic, because that's not the truth. And so you defend yourself. And I'm thinking the whole time, my children, my family, my clients. And so we can roll the tapes back, 10 years when there was women just trying to keep their job. And so they would lie about other cast members just to create drama. I don't do that. Everything I ever filmed was reality. It was a reaction to what they were doing to me. And I'm from Chicago. I was going to defend myself. And so for many of the times that I filmed, I wasn't proud of how I reacted, but I also reacted accordingly to how they were being. And when Scott Dunlap approached me, he's like, we need a balance here. We got all housewives, and we need somebody that works and is a housewife. I make dinner every night. I'm at every soccer game, every baseball game. I balanced it because my children and my family were the most important thing. And then it fell into, my career, and then the Housewives, because I knew it wasn't sustainable my whole life. I couldn't just do that. Plus, I'd be bored just doing that.
So what's next for you?
Oh, I got a lot of fun things coming up. I've got some secrets, maybe a new show, maybe some other things coming up, but I can't announce it yet, but it'll come out soon.
I was giving you an opportunity to plug. Okay, so you could wait to plug.
She's keeping secrets, Stacy.
Not on your clock. I'm gonna do it on my clock.
Good for you.
So smart, but smart move.
So I'm going to ask this of every one of my guests. If you could have done anything else in life, and I mean professionally, what would that have been?
I'm doing everything I like to do. We all have choices. So I don't wish for anything different. I chose my life path. I chose what I'm doing, and I don't have any regrets at all. I love my life. It's perfect.
Can I just ask you, because I have, when I watched the show, and when I watched the show with you on it, your business was such a big part of your identity and what you do. Can you just tell people how do you start an insurance agency? How did you get so big? How does it happen? So if somebody is looking at you and, they talk about you, they hear you talk about growing this business like a baby, where do you start? Like, what's step one?
For me, step one was getting divorced at 28 with 2 little children. So my girlfriend was selling life insurance at night, and I was working for my father's construction company. I'm a numbers girl. I was doing accounts payable, accounts receivable. In the early 80s, everything was done DOS system. You probably know what that is because you're young. And manually writing out payroll checks, 300 payroll checks every other week. And my dad would just say, here's the payroll, fill it out. But I wasn't making enough to sustain I never got child support. So all these women out there with their hands out in California, they're so privileged. I never got child support. My ex-husband was a deadbeat dad and still is, never had a relationship with my 2 children. They were 5 and 6 when I got divorced. But my girlfriend said to me, you should probably get life insurance on him because he's an alcoholic. He drives drunk. He's this, he's that, and the other. And if something were to happen to him, you would get a benefit if, God forbid, he died early. So I'm like, okay, let's do it. So we got a $500,000 life insurance policy on him. He did the physical. He passed it. He signed the application. He knew fully well what we were doing. Because he couldn't afford child support, I paid the premiums on the life insurance. And I thought for a moment, like, what did you make on this policy? And she said, $600. I said, you're kidding me. I'm working 2 weeks to make $600, working about 30 hours a week at my dad's construction company. My mother would babysit my babies. And I said, this was like an hour of your time. And she's like, well, you could do it. It's a very male-dominated industry. She was one of the only women that worked at Western Southern Life Insurance in Elmhurst, Illinois. Little plug for them. And I walked in the office and I met her manager, and he's like, you're never going to make it. You work full-time at your dad. You have 2 babies. This is a tough business. I'm like, don't tell me no. So I went and took the test. I passed the first time life and health exam. And he gave me a debit book. Back in the days, we used to get a book, like a yellow page book, but it was called a debit book. And we'd have to go out and collect premiums. So I'd drive around Cabrini Green, downtown Chicago, and collect $5, $20 premiums on these people that all they could afford was a $10,000 death benefit. And our job as an agent was to upsell them. Okay, can you afford $10 a week or $20 a week? And so I came back and I had like 50 new apps that week. And he's like, where did you get these from? I said, you gave me the debit book. You told me what to do. I upsold them. I got them more coverage for not much more money. So we used to put our numbers on the board, on this whiteboard, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, put a slash. And then, so I would put my 50 apps almost every week consistently. And some of the guys that were working full time would have like 10 apps a week. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? They're like, well, we work a couple hours a day. And like, well, I'm working at night, weekends, days, and for my father, and have 2 children. I couldn't understand the mentality. So they had they had a ceiling on what they were wanting to make, whether it was 20, 30, 40,000 a year, that's what they were at. I needed to make 70,000 a year at the time to pay for the child support, to pay for my new car that I got because I wanted to dress for success. I bought a brand new Lexus. My boss told me I was crazy. I said, no, I'm going to drive up to somebody's house and I'm going to look like I can do this. And he's like, well, you can't. I said, yes, I can. So I remember my car payment was $600 a month. And at that time, in the early 90s, I was like, I'm crazy, But what it did was it pushed me. And I created a income flow and an outcome flow of what I needed to sell every week. in order to make my bills every week. So it was a constant rolling number. For me, it was just, I had to do it. And I was number one agent for years. And then I moved to California, got remarried, and then I started up my own practice here. So I think for anybody looking to get in the business, you got to start at an agency. They got to train you, and then you get on your own.
I think it's such a good lesson, frankly, Vicki. And again, as somebody who watched the show, I think that it's really cool that people could look at you and see all of the stuff, because people like stuff. And it wasn't stuff that, and I'm not like throwing digs, like God bless people who have partners who provide for them completely. But, we live in a culture now where people think about like, oh, how do I get this? And everybody wants to be an influencer. Everybody wants to be on a reality show. Everybody wants to do things that seem like shortcuts. And what you really modeled is how you, like the basics, how you put together a grown-up, sustainable business. I remember there was an episode when you wanted your son involved in the business. Is he involved now? Is this a legacy business for your family?
Michael's worked for me for 18 years. He's my life insurance specialist. He is an incredible person. So proud of him. He works remotely. So during COVID, he didn't miss a beat. I'm more of a hands-on, face-to-face, like these clients behind me. I physically see them. I manage their portfolios for retirement planning. We do a lot of fixed index annuities here, a lot of Medicare supplements, long-term care life. So we're full service at my company now, but it didn't start that way. It's a ladder. I just kept building. Now, anything else I wanted, whether I wanted a new boat or wanted a river house out in Lake Havasu or wanted to get another rental property, I created a plan to do that. So I had to sell X amount of policies more in order to get that down payment. And then I created an income plan on the rental property. So it was constantly, it wasn't by chance. It wasn't by luck. It was methodical. And I still am. Whatever I want to do, it's set out in stone. I create a budget for it. I know what I have to do and sell. And there's some nights, last night I worked till 2 a.m, here at 8 a.m. Some days are worse than others, but tomorrow I'm heading to Oklahoma. I'm going to go see my daughter. I'm going to go to a Toby Keith charity event that I've always sponsored and been part of for the golf charity. So things have to be done. You have to prioritize. And I just can't believe some people don't have any reason to get up in the morning. That to me would drive me freaking nuts. They don't have a purpose. Their purpose is to get their nails done or get their hair. I got my nails done the other day. I'm going to get them done again next week. Like every other week, I get my nails done. It's programmed. It's set. I don't fall off course because it's like I'm very scheduled.
My manicurist gets very upset at me because I work at the same time as she does my nails and my toes, because that's how I multitask. You have a very similar philosophy to mine, which is, don't tell me I can't do something. You say that to me and it's get out of my way. It's a challenge. You don't have to tell me the positive, but don't tell me the negative.
Exactly right. But I also, like when you say, what would I do if I didn't do what I'm doing? Everybody has a choice of what to do. If you choose to stay home and be a great mother and be a great wife, that's awesome. I love that. I support that. I condone that. But make sure you know what could happen if tomorrow your husband died in a car accident or got diagnosed with cancer. You better have life insurance on them. So the breadwinner needs to take care of the family through life insurance. It's tax-free. It's a great benefit. But I can talk about it all day long. People don't think it's going to happen to them. And I always say the cemetery is filled with people that never expected to die, right? So we're all going to die, 100%, right? So got every story in the book to talk about why life insurance is so important. But for me, it's being responsible, right? So making sure that.
And I'm a divorce lawyer. So I deal with, it's either death or divorce. And it does happen. I'm very busy. And you better plan. You're absolutely right.
So as you being a divorce lawyer, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Go ahead.
So if somebody is getting alimony, child support, and it's, let's say, till the youngest child is 20, 25, whatever that number is for the child support, alimonies for X amount of years that they were married, do you ever demand in that divorce decree that life insurance is part of the plan?
Absolutely.
Because I find out so many divorce lawyers are not doing that. And I feel one other way because I'm a woman in a man's world. I feel, why should I have to pay alimony because my wife's, let's say I'm a male, it's not gender specific. Let's say I'm a male and I supported the family for 10 years, we get divorced. Because my wife decided not to work and not have a career, most of them did go to college, but they raised their children. Why do I, as the man, am prohibited to create a new family and a new life because I have this ball and chain behind me paying for her that she won't go to work and she won't do this? And that's a struggle I have when I see here in Southern California, these women don't go off and go to work. They're still waiting on that man to still provide that lifestyle that they were used to.
Let me address that. Generally speaking, but not always, a husband and wife make a decision together. Generally, not always, that the wife stays home. I have many friends where the husband stays home because the wife was more successful and more interested in working. But generally speaking, and I know it's 2024, many, many, many men really want their wives to stay home. They don't want the challenge. And then when they get divorced, they want her, like, drop her like a hot potato and expect her to go back to work. We have an expectation in California that somebody will learn to be self-sustaining. And depending on how long they were married, how many years they were out of the workforce, what their health is, what their age is, they may be compelled, whether they want to or not, to go back to work. Personally, what I say to my clients who don't work is, you want to become self-sufficient. That should be a goal.
You go out and go to work.
Mhm.
You're not a child. Why should you be dependent upon somebody?
Yeah, and I think that there are two different scenarios, right? So there's one scenario is that, say, a couple build a business together. So let's say they're married and one of the partners, it's gender neutral. One of them is out there doing meetings, closing deals, wants his partner or her partner to be supportive in that. Like, there are many scenarios where I think that people play different roles in a relationship. And so if you're home being supportive while your partner is out there conquering the world, because it's hard to conquer the world if you don't have anybody helping you at home, that's a partnership. But I think, to your point, Vicki, people live a lot longer now. There are folks who get married later in life, and maybe they never lived as well as they did when they were married, and then the marriage is over. And, there becomes a sense, they may have a sense, well, you know what? I used to shop like this when I was married to you, and even though I could get a job, don't feel like it. I think that you should step up. And I think that's what she's talking about. And I do think that's something that happens. And I don't think that the law always, it doesn't always protect people.
My pride is I don't want a man taking care of me. I want to take care of myself. I'm not a baby. I'm not a child. My parents took care of me till I was 18. Then I got married. Then I got divorced. I got married and unfortunately divorced again. But I never depended upon my man, even while I was married and totally taking care of the home, for him to take care of me. That was not, he didn't marry a child. He married an adult that has an opportunity to make a living and help him. And guess what? I earned a lot of kudos for that from both husbands. They said, you are so unusual because you want to be a partner versus just sitting back raising kids. Raising kids is hard. It's not that difficult. You raise good people, you have good rules at the home. You can still work. If your kids are a high school, junior high, you can still go to work. And when the death happens or if a divorce happens, you've got an opportunity to continue on. And here we're getting off subject, probably what you guys want to talk, but here in California, the majority of my girlfriends do not work. And they have no intentions of working.
They don't want to. And most men, I'm going to be slated about this, they don't want their spouse to work. Who are those guys?
The ones I've seen, they're unskilled now because they left the time too long after their college degree. They're unskilled. They don't have the lawyer degree that you have. They don't have the skills, the career that I have. They couldn't get doing what I'm doing at 62 years old. They'd be blown away by agents like me, like that lady doesn't know what she's doing. But if you keep your foot in something, whether it's crafts, whether it's daycare at home, whether it's whatever, it gives you a sense of pride. And I think you get more respect from your spouse. I personally see it all around me. The women that work that do have, I mean, my colleagues, women, we're top 5% in the industry. Their husbands respect us. My significant other now respects me because I do contribute. I do have assets. I do have real estate. I don't think I'd be with him if I didn't have that. I mean, there's a ton of women in California, prettier than me, skinnier than me, more whatever. But because I have a career, because I can balance it, I think the respect level is there a little bit more.
And some guys appreciate that and some don't. By the way, Vicki, you know, you're talking to two working women here.
My husband is so glad I have a job. My husband is so glad I have a job. He thanks God every day for my job.
So you did ask one question, but it's not every day you have a divorce attorney and a TV judge that you can ask questions of. Is there anything you'd like to ask us? Because we're of the same mindset as you.
No, I love it. No, in fact, this is the first time I met you ladies, so I don't know much about you all other than what we just talked about. So I can go off on a tangent all day long, but I just respect you guys. I mean, it's not easy, but we do it because we choose to do it. So nobody's telling us you have to go to work every day. I love what I do. So for me, it's not work.
I think what you said is really important, that people should keep their foot in something. You should keep your hand in something. You know, it's good. It's good for your self-respect. It's good, I think, to engender respect. Did you find, I mean, because gosh, Vicki, you lived so much of your personal life on camera. I mean, it's almost surreal, like me talking to you. Like I watched you get divorced on TV. Like I watched you talk about. Was that? Just tell us, like, what did that feel like? You're living a business, you're doing your life, and you are also experiencing some of the most personal, hard things that people can experience, and you're doing it in front of millions of people, all of whom don't really know the whole story, but have a comment. Like, what's that? What was that like?
I chose to live my truth and chose to get off of reality TV posts and LinkedIn. And now LinkedIn was okay because it was business, but all the gossip stuff, I didn't read it because they don't know me. They only know what they see and how it's edited. They didn't know what was happening behind closed doors without the cameras on and the disconnect that my husband and I had at the time. And, you know, I did what I had to do at that time to make me happier. And I don't regret it. I'm good, you know? So I think that we all make choices. And I don't think, one thing I've said a lot is if I wasn't filming a reality TV show, I don't think we would have gotten divorced. I think the reality TV show absolutely had 100% contribution to our divorce. So
that hurts.
It hurts, but we both signed up for it. We both knew what was going to happen. And I got distracted and wasn't focusing on my marriage. And when you don't focus on your marriage, they focus on something else, or I focus on something else. So I always used to say, my love tank's empty. And he's like, I didn't even know you had a love tank. And it's like, we as humans and women need to be fulfilled, not just by work and family, but by our spouse. So it was a conscious decision we made together. It wasn't like an angry decision. We lived together for 4 years after the divorce was in process because it took us a while to settle everything. We were cordial and fine, but it was hard. It was a hard decision, but we know we made the right one.
Going through a divorce is very, very hard. I want to share something my son told me when he was about 5 years old. He's 34 now. And I was feeling guilty about working as hard as I did because I work really hard. And I was the primary breadwinner. And I said, what would you think if mommy stopped working? He goes, no, mom, you're the boss. At the time I had a partner. I said, well, Joe and I are, bosses together. No, mom, you're the big boss. And what it said to me was that it was important to him that I worked. And that helped me go on. And I've had that discussion with both of my kids and my daughter-in-law. What's it like to have a mom who works and how that affected them? And when all is said and done, for whatever they lost, they articulated they gained a lot. And I don't know if that assuaged my Jewish guilt, but it certainly helps.
Can I ask a question on a different subject? I've seen Vicki a lot over the years, and you are so hot. You're such a hot grandmother. So tell me what you do. Like, what's the regime? What's the regimen? You look fantastic.
Oh, well, thank you. I had a peel yesterday, so if you felt my skin, it's like sandpaper. I definitely am a big believer in taking care of your skin. I did have a neck lift and a lower facelift like 5 years ago on camera, so it's no surprise. But I think right here in my soul and in my persona, I'm happy. And one thing that relays out, I'm not bitter, I'm not angry, I'm not jealous. I'm insecure like every woman is, but I'm happy. I've got 4 beautiful grandchildren. My daughter lives far away, that's the only sadness I have is I can't see her every day. But all in all, I'm blessed. I'm thankful. I'm happy. I've got really good friends. I walk 12,000 steps a day. And I go in my sauna every night for 40 minutes because I heard it prevents Alzheimer's. And my dad died of Alzheimer's at 59. He was diagnosed. So anything I can do to keep my brain going and keep myself active, I'm going to try my best to do that. So,
are you friends with any of the women who you appeared with on Orange County?
Yeah, that's a good question. So every season, they all change. It's like one season you're best friends, the next season they change. I'm like, well, I'm still your friend, right? No, I'm mad at you about something you did 10 years ago. I'm like, Shannon and I have reconciled. After I got off the show 3 years ago, she stopped talking to me. We had a conversation. She's like, I never was mad at you. I'm like, then why did you stop returning my calls? So to me, when you're a friend for life. Like I'm a lifer. Like I'm from the Midwest, Chicago. You don't just discard friends. So I told her how it hurt me. And we're now doing the Shannon and Vicki live show. We're going out to different cities and we're doing like a comedy shop. We do it at like city and wineries. We do it to improvs and we do song and dance, tap dance. We do really fun things. So that's been fun. And the rest of them, not so much. Gina Keogh, that's about it. She was season 1 through 5 with me, but the other girls just really don't have a relationship. It's really true to find out who your friends are when you get off a show full time. You're forgotten.
A good point.
Let's talk about when you need insurance, where do we go?
So you know how I always say, got to plug what you're doing, always be selling ABS. Coto Insurance, COTO Insurance. And there's an online quoting tool. If you don't have life insurance or if you have an old policy, go on there. We'll call you back. So it'll either be Michael or myself.
Right on. Thank you, Vicki.
You go, girl. I'd really like to thank our special guest, Vicki Gunvalson, and my co-host and dear friend, Tanya Acker.
Thank you for having me, my friend. I love being in your closet.
And a special thank you to all of you for spending some of your precious time with us at Stacy Phillips and Friends. You can watch us on my YouTube channel at Stacy Phillips or download this show on whatever podcast vehicle you use to listen to your podcast. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Stacy D. Phillips for Esquire, and comment on LinkedIn. See you again soon, and remember, love will always be in fashion.